Welcome to the Yankee Cowboy Podcast, coming to you from Dallas, Texas. Here's your host, Tim Wilkins.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Yankee Cowboy Podcast. It is an amazing day in American history, ladies and gentlemen. It is the recap. It is the Yankee Cowboy episode of the Super Duper to the 10th to the 15th power Duper Tuesday recap show, brought to you in part by Yankee Cowboy Podcast. Just kidding. It's brought to you in part by yours truly. Chris is joining me as always. Thank you for joining me. We're having it sometimes because today's theme of today's episode is "Ha ha, I told you so" part 1. I'm just not kidding anymore. If you listen to the previous episodes of this podcast, Chris, sorry to rain on your parade for a minute, but he was a Ron DeSantis supporter for devil's advocate reasons. I'll say that personally. I know what train I'm on. I've been on that Trump train since 2015. I haven't got off. Hell, I think I bought like 3 round trip tickets. This same. Chris got off the station somewhere between, coming to Jesus 2020 and the insurrection. He got off the train and then got back on the train after Joe Biden. Oh, so by the way, there's no such thing as an insurrection. That's correct. That is right.
No.
It was a peaceful protest, ladies and gentlemen. Peaceful.
Or as people are calling it, an erection.
I mean, listen, you might have had an erection at your house, but that's only up to you. All jokes aside, it is probably one of the greatest days in American history. Super Duper Tuesday, as I call it, because it really is. It is, if you want to have a primary, as the presidency does, you have, I think, 15 states on the ballot, primary candidates. Both parties do it. And which, by the way, I learned last night, Chris, and I know as much as a political junkie as I am, I did not know that apparently Democrats actually need more delegates than the Republican Party does to actually hold the nomination. I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
So the Republicans only need 1,200 delegates. The Democrats need like 2,200. I'm not sure if it's just the state proportionality of delegates and how they do it, and how all that fun stuff is.
I mean, you got to factor in the dead people voting, so I guess that must.
We got the one-liners cooking real good today, my friend. You got the one-liners cooking. Here we go. So today is the recap show of the Super Duper Tuesday. But I really want to, before I begin on the recap, I really want to say this from the bottom of my heart. I don't apologize to absolutely fucking no one. No one. Get on the Trump train, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to be the first president in the last 120 years to be like Grover Cleveland. He's coming back. Everything you throw at that man but the kitchen sink has fallen off. He's Teflon Don for a reason, okay? By the way, he's also made about $4 billion on truth. What else are you going to do to this man? Chris, I'm just wondering, what can they throw at this man? Seriously. They try to take away everything they could from him. What else you got?
The last thing to do is the most lethal thing, and we don't want to mention that.
Talk about that now, because then you'll have Secret Service knocking on my doorstep.
Exactly.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Exactly.
God. Thanks.
I mean that.
That or Dan Bongino, which might be a cool thing, but
to me that's the last thing. Unfortunately,
honestly,
sadly,
it is, and unfortunately, I'll say this with not jokes aside, the man is a testament of perseverance. He really is. And I think a lesser man or a lesser woman, there's no chance in hell you're going to be able to weather that storm. I mean, and if you actually listen to him now, and this is kind of where before I go on to the Super Duper Tuesday recap, if you listen to him now, he sounds way more composed. Like he's deliberate and he's concise. Yes, there's some times where he does sound like a blowhard and a lot of it's repeating himself. There's a lot of that stump speech in there still. But when you actually hear him on interviews and sit downs, dude, the man is sharp as a tack when it comes to every answer that he wants to give. There's no bumbling. There's no stumbling. There's no, hey, I'm going to call on a reporter that's nice to me. No, I'll take questions from damn near everybody. I respect that as a human being, to a president of the United States, to take the hard questions when the hard questions are not necessarily the easiest ones, and they're not answered. There's actually a YouTube video, Chris, I watched last night of him taking questions in 23 from an audience of 10,000 people in the arena. And he literally passed the microphone for a good 45 minutes and just took random questions. And I said, I haven't seen that done before. And we're not going to see that from Joe Biden, because we have the Hate of the Union address tomorrow. So before I go into this, we have a different problem on our hands, though, as a country. And I'll be remiss to not talk about it, Chris. It's the personal debt crisis. We just signed the bills today, which the Republican Party sold our asses out again. Sold our asses down the line, kicked the can for another $4 or $5 trillion and kept on kicking the can. It is worse every time. If you're going to donate, I'll tell every single person listen to this podcast episode, I don't care if you're a Trump supporter or DeSantis, Haley, turncoat Haley supporter, or if you're just a damn Democrat that listens because you like to get entertainment. I don't care. But if you really if you donate to a campaign, donate to the campaign directly. Don't donate to Win Red. Don't you dare donate to the Republican Party until they change leadership and they change their ways of doing things for the American people. Vote for your candidate directly, support your candidates, small local elections, and go out and vote and do your civic duty. I will tell you this right now. I met a candidate, Chris, before I go on to this thing, I was talking to you via text message. A candidate that was in my district, he was running for the Republican primary. He had, I met him just on the blue. I met him, and nice guy, but he lost last night. Lost by 1,000 votes. And I wish him all the best. I wish the candidate for Republican office the best in my congressional district. But when you're basically going against a liberal in a district, it's going to be an uphill battle. He's a 5-time incumbent in Congress, and that's just going to be a tough hill battle. But I'll be remiss, man. I think, Chris, you can probably agree with, because we both listen to Dave Ramsey a lot. The personal debt crisis is something that you can't come to me and talk to me about politics without getting your own house in order. You got to know your numbers, you got to know your stuff, and you got to know your issues. Trump literally at the forefront, man, just beat the holy crap out of Nikki Haley. And I'm going to say this, maybe she has a weird kink, Chris. I don't know. Maybe she enjoys pain or losing. I don't know. I mean, she did it. I'm not going to try and sound like Laura Loomer on this, but she has some weird sadistic stuff. She enjoys pain and suffering because she got her ass handed to her. She only won 2 things. 2.
Yeah, District of Columbia and Vermont.
Best known as the Swamp, for you keeping track at home. In Vermont, home of the Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Also a liberal stronghold.
And Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, listen, Bernie's a relic. He's a fossil. Okay. That means a fossil, as Dan Bongino would say. Home of the fossil. He should be in Jurassic Park, the movie, honestly. But if you look down into this, I'll let you go. I'm going to pull out the results here. Chris, you got anything you want to say before I pull these results up here, man?
No, I mean, I think we can all, I think anyone who's watching or listening or Trump supporter, I think would probably say that, it wasn't a matter of how much, if President Trump would win the majority or all, if not on Super Tuesday, it was just how much would the score get run up. So really no surprise. And again, even Vermont, I think he only lost by about 3,000 votes there. And,
I think it was 3,207.
Yeah. So, point.
Which, by the way, it still bothers me. And I think we were talking before we went on air. There's still states that haven't finished counting their damn votes yet. And it's like, what the are you doing? It's like 70, 80% voted, but you call a state already. What kind of crap is that? But all right, so I'll let you keep on going back into this, but I mean, other than, Vermont and DC of Columbia, better known as a swamp, Nikki Haley didn't do anything. So let's go over the numbers and kind of give. So, by the way, the delegate breakdown. Okay, the Republican Party receive the nomination of the presidency of the United States. They only need 1,215 delegates. Okay, the Democrats need 1,968. Joe Biden is at 1,818. I'm not sure how. And Donald Trump is at 1,059. They're still going to reward some delegates here, but because they're still being vote tallied. I think Hawaii closes in about 3 minutes and 40 seconds here, or I'm sorry, 3 hours, and so that's the kind of the big one. I'm not sure if Hawaii goes with the Democrat or the Republicans or not, but just pull that up real fast here. Sorry to go through the weeds here. Yeah, the Democrats have the Hawaiian thing today. Okay, so back to Super Duper Tuesday and rubbing this in some more. So south of the swamp, closed first, okay, in Virginia, better known as the home of many, many swamp creatures. You still got me, Chris?
No, say Northern Virginia.
Yeah, Northern Virginia is home of the swamp creatures.
The rest of Virginia is normal. It's Northern Virginia that unfortunately controls the state and where all the zombies live.
Yeah, keep the swamp creatures to the north. All right, so looking at the totals here, 436,704 votes to a grand spanking total of 241,637 for Haley. So even in the swampiest of swamp areas, which would have been Northern Virginia, I'm assuming that was her stronghold in the state, Trump still wins by close to 30 points. Now, the next state that was called on the timeline of greatness last night was the Tar Heel state. If you go by the timeline in which these states were called, it is by far some of the most hilarious it's amazing. And I'll explain later here as we get down to like states like Arkansas, Alabama, and Tennessee, which just blew me, hell, even Oklahoma. North Carolina still has about 2.5% of the vote out as of this time. And Donald Trump received 790,700 votes. And Nikki, should I give her a nickname? Are we done with that? Are we done with the nickname?
Yeah, we're done with that.
All right. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Good old Haley, the Never Trumper, as she is now be called, is 249,000 votes. Here's the crazy thing about that state. It was called 15 minutes after the damn polls closed. Chris, what is going on in your state, man? What is going on? Are you trying to steal the election from Haley? What are you trying to do over there? What are you going on?
I think the people in North Carolina made their voices known how they feel about former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
I think the state of South Carolina told everybody else how they felt about Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
All right. And here's the fun part, ladies and gentlemen. So my home state of Texas, which has a grand total, by the way, North Carolina has 74 delegates. Okay. 74. Texas has 161. And holy crap, we have a boatload of people living here. 1,800,700 people voted for Donald Trump in Texas. Still about almost half a million people voted for Nikki Haley. The margin of victory, ladies and gentlemen, in Texas was 60%. Which, by the way, that includes people that have moved from the West Coast, or better known as the Waste Coast of the country, and came over here and try to dilute and try to put your crappy politics into this state. Keep on trying. You ain't doing it. Okay? Keep on trying. Okay, and I'll also dive into this really quickly. Ted Cruz won by 81% for his primary. He's going against Colin Allred. It is no Beto O'Rourke, but I'll tell you right now, it's going to be a fun, good time. Gonna be a good time on election day, I tell you, in the great state of Texas. All right, the next one, which really made me laugh, and Chris, you'll probably get a kick out of this too, is Massachusetts, better known as the Massholes for short. You Massholes voted in Trump by 23 points. 339,000 people voted for Donald Trump in Massachusetts. I didn't even know there was that many Republicans up there. I mean, I guess they're called themselves rhinos. I don't know. But you still got me? But it is what it is, man. And the next thing is probably going to be Alabama. Alabama, I'm not quite sure exactly how fast they can count there. I'm happy they can all count. But yeah, they finished tallying their votes up pretty quickly, and Donald Trump won the state by 71%. Now, the one that I got the most kick out of, and I think Chris can agree with me on this, he got the kick out of this too, is Arkansas. Arkansas only has 76% of their expected votes in right now. And they call Donald Trump, it's hilarious. By the way, Chris, I can hear you just fine. You got me?
I got you.
All right, cool. So Arkansas doesn't even have over 3/4 the amount of votes popped in yet. And they called Donald Trump within 5 minutes. Okay. It took Texas an hour and a half to call it, which is surprisingly enough. I think it was just mainly an AP call more than anything else. I think the Secretary of State kind of knew where this was going, but they waited. Arkansas called theirs pretty quick. The one place that Nikki Haley surprisingly won, which didn't look like she was winning at all during the count, was Vermont. Chris, and I think the total number, by the way, there's only about 70-ish thousand people voted in Vermont in the Republican primary, which is an open primary, by the way. Most states are either closed or open, depending on where you live. Always make sure you check your state laws before you go ahead and register to vote. And how do you vote? But yeah, Nikki Haley won with 36,363. Donald Trump had 33,301. So he literally only lost by about 3,000 votes in Vermont.
In an open primary.
In an open primary. So this is where, even states like Colorado, Chris, 37 delegates are up for grabs here. Okay. Donald Trump still put out 500,000 votes out in Colorado. And Nikki Haley had about close to 285,000. So he won nearly by 30 points in Colorado, which has gone historically electoral college blue for a long time.
Yeah, at least since 2004.
Yeah. So and then you have Minnesota, as many of you great Midwesterners would call it. Trump had 232,000 votes. He won by 40 points in Minnesota. And that's a state that's gone blue in his electoral colleges. The one that made me laugh the hardest was the one thing I didn't stay up for because I would have not slept at all, was Alaska. Only 13,000 people voted in Alaska. And Donald Trump won single-handedly by 74% of the vote. So I appreciate all you Alaskan people coming out of the woodwork during your hard winter months to vote for the man who is going to be the next Grover Cleveland of our generation. The one place that really didn't surprise me, and I'm actually more surprised by the actual total vote count, was California. And I didn't know that there's many Republicans in California. And believe it or not, they still had 21,000 people vote for Ron DeSantis. I guess they didn't get the memo. I guess those Californians, those liberals, didn't get the memo. I'm sorry. Oh, the rhinos. I'm sorry. All right. But yes, in California, Trump had 1,117,000 people vote for him. And I can tell you, that's still not going to win him the state of California because he's outnumbered by a lot of liberals up there. But
like 3-1.
It's like 3-1, but I'll take it. The difference is, I think, Chris, I mean, the one thing that's kind of a stands out to me is that there's still a lot of numbers up here of people that just don't like Donald Trump. There's just numbers that 33,000, 256,000, 21,000. You know, there's still a lot of people that voted for DeSantis here too. Like, there's also people that voted no preference. There's people that voted non-committal. There's no, and that goes into the next topic I think we both want to talk about, and it's kind of scary. Even for the the Democrats are about to literally put up a 80-something-year-old man that can't complete a sentence to be their nominee for president of the United States. He is the incumbent president, and he had more votes of uncommittal or non-committal in 2 municipalities in Michigan and Minnesota of populations that do not like him, and they're Democrats. And what I'm talking about, Chris, is Minnesota with the strong Muslim population there, as well as a strong population in Michigan that voted single-handedly. Like, dude, this was pretty crazy. Like, I don't take aback this by anything, but I'll just go into this really briefly for everyone to understand this. I don't think everyone understands uncommitted votes in Minnesota was 47,000 people. Dean Phillips had an extra 20,000 votes. There's still 32,000 votes remaining to be counted in Minnesota as of today. So that's just in Minnesota. President Biden has a huge problem. Heck, he even lost the Samoan
American Samoa.
Yeah, he lost the Samoans, man. He lost the bloodline, as they say for all you wrestling fans. Put your ones up in the sky. By the way, make sure you watch WrestleMania this year so Cody can finish his story, aka The Rock. Come back, Hollywood heel Rock is there. Yep, good times. But in all seriousness, what President Biden is, he's upside down in every single poll. And not just upside down, Chris, he is literally upside down. Like his job approval numbers are just, I'm not talking about just job approval. I'm talking about like on every issue, the economy, foreign policy, inflation. He almost has worse numbers than Congress. He's close. And it's staggering. But by the way, the reason why I bring up the Democrats a little bit is because those 2 voting blocks, and I mean this sincerely, if those 2 voting blocks in Michigan and Minnesota don't come out and support him, he will lose those 2 states. If you look at the numbers, and this is why we're talking about this in a big picture, is, ladies and gentlemen, on Friday, the Republican National Committee will make a vote for the next chairwoman or chairperson of the party. There's 2 people in there that are grassroots, Scott Pressler, that if his voter turnout numbers are exactly what they say they are, we will win the state of Michigan in Pennsylvania, based on his grassroots efforts in populations that just are uncannily just never been done before. So this is where I talk about this. 101,000 people voted against Joe Biden in their own Democratic primary. So that tells me, as a voter, Chris, that you made the effort to go vote in your own primary, but you voted uncommitted. So why would you go drive to a polling place just to go type in that vote? Because you wanted to prove a point. And they did. And in Michigan, that made national coverage because of his foreign policy issues with the war between Hamas and the Palestinians and Israel. So it is a true kind of scary, if you ask me, man. Like I think I don't ever like to say that we are way ahead of the game here. As a Republican, I always like to play that we're 7 points down. We're coming from behind victory, but there is legitimately a chance here that we can win states that we won back in 2016. Again, it's just a matter of how they play it. And Chris, I think Georgia is going to be in play. I think Pennsylvania is going to be in play. Wisconsin is going to be in play again. Arizona, I think if they got to get Arizona needs to get their state law and in check before we do anything else. There's a lot of back and forth going on between legal fights there, but I mean, it is Super Duper Tuesday, right? So, like, I'm not saying I'm trying to put this in hindsight or put the greatest victory in the Republican primary aside. I think Donald Trump's message, obviously, he addressed his fans and his voters and everybody else and his supporters. He sounded pretty straight up, like saying, "All right, let's go. Let's have a good one. Let's go." Like, it's not. I'm not going to focus on Haley. I'm not going to focus on this. I'm not going to focus on that. It's time to go. I mean, he briefly discussed it this morning when she knocked out. She bowed out, and she should have bowed out 3 weeks ago after she lost New Hampshire. And listen, Chris, I don't know about your opinion on this. I don't see why she ran after New Hampshire. Do you?
I mean, the only thing you think of from that perspective is probably her
Money?
her is money. I mean, probably her donors and the donor class was hoping maybe that she could. I don't know who at this point, who knows why. I mean, they may just want to light money on fire, but
I mean, listen, Dave Ramsey would probably hit their ass for doing that. But see, here's the thing: the reason why this episode is kind of more of a happy-go-lucky thing, and it really is. It's not a doom and gloom conversation, but Trump has considerably won over and over and over and over again, not just in the election cycle, but in court. Yes, there are some things that are going on right now within the civil case in New York and in some of those cases in New York that need to be reconciled, and I think there's some appeals process. But the Supreme Court of the United States voted 9-0 in his favor. If that's not a strike on everything going on in this country, it is awesome. It really was. Because if you actually read that decision, I knew there was going to be, Chris, and I know you're not a Supreme Court, junkie either, but I knew there was going to be a concurrent decision that was written by some of the justices based on how the first one was written. I said, they're going to probably come out with their own and why they voted in favor of it or favored against it. And I said, okay, well, that's awesome. They wrote in favor of it. But like the females of the court wrote, like, it was actually pretty nicely written. I would say you have to give the credit to the clerks on this situation because they write really nice. Obviously there's frameworks that get written about on the Supreme Court side and stuff like that, but not to kind of go through the weeds of things, but it's pretty awesome. If you ask me, like that started the week. That was on Monday afternoon. It was like Monday at 11. Trump wins 9-0. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good week. Hope everyone hold your beer, But Chris, I would say to you, what are your recaps or your takeaways from anything here? I mean, are we looking? I mean, there's some things that are going to happen now between now and November, obviously. But I mean, you got any takeaways you kind of want to bring up here before we, have some more fun and start just, kicking the crap out of anything else? Oh, by the way, congratulations, Mark Robinson, for your ass whooping. By the way, congratulations.
Yeah, great. I mean, I it's hard to say. I mean, obviously, I think. I mean, yeah, you take some small victories, you enjoy the wins, but I mean, there's still a long way to go in this process, and who honestly knows what's going to happen. And there's no way the Democrats, with as much as they despise this man, are not going to try something else, and who knows what that will be, whether it be through legislation, which won't really go anywhere, but just slow down the process, or more legal stuff. I mean, at this point, who knows what they're going to try and do to keep President Trump out of the Oval Office again. There's no way that from now here in March all the way up until November, they're not going to try something else. It's just a matter of time.
Well, I mean, and I don't disagree with you, but they are literally throwing everything at this man but the kitchen sink. I mean, literally and figuratively, they have thrown everything at this man. And so, by the way, also, at the day of this recording, they actually announced, I believe it was today, that the Supreme Court's actually going to hear the arguments for the immunity clauses, the presidential immunity situation, and his cases. And if the Supreme Court comes down in favor of the presidential immunity, which it's borderline that it may or may not come that way. If it does, it throws out this January 6th case. The documents case is very flimsy. It's kind of iffy, but still, he has the case there. The New York case is the flimsiest of cases, and that's supposed to start, I think in March or in April or something along that. Let me tell you something. What's really staggering to me is that New York, Alvin Bragg just brought Wiseman back in, who is the accountant for the Trump organization, again on charges. And for a guy that has worked for the Trump organization, he has gotten himself bamboozled by the court system for no reason. I mean, a guy filed his taxes. So, I mean, there's that. But
because he worked for Trump. I mean, you can
and they thought they could turn him. They thought they can turn him against him. And in reality, what's going to happen, Chris, is as soon as Trump takes office again, he's going to pardon. You and I both know that's going to happen. As soon as these guys, Roger Stone, all these guys that have gotten charged for, okay, let's talk about it. Navarro, who just got, his, what do you call that? The charges against him for, what is it? So the subpoena for Congress, he declined.
Yeah.
Steve Bannon, all these guys, as soon as he gets office, he's gonna be like, all right, let's just hurry up and get this shit over with. Like it's over with. And that's just me personally. What the crazy thing is, man, is what does the RNC do to get the margin back that we lost in 2020? Georgia, I don't know about you, Chris, but Georgia, in my opinion, it's got to be the
2 a.m. voter. Figure out how to not have 2 a.m. voter dumps.
I mean, that too, and water main breaks. Don't forget the water main break. But figure out Pennsylvania, figure out Wisconsin, figure out Michigan. I think right now, the way the polling data has come across, and I think I will tell every single one of you that's listening or watching on YouTube or however you want to enjoy this podcast, is go pick up interactive polls on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, and read through the polling data. It's not just one-sided or the other that's reporting some of this data points. It's a lot of widespread polls that are seeing Trump up and on issues on different states and different things. Now, do you believe in every single poll that's ever come out? No. Polls are polls. You have to remember something. People that answer polls are willing to divulge that information. A lot of people in this country don't. And they still believe the same. So, very interesting. Like I said, I'll be very interested to see what the RNC does this Friday when they have their vote. Ronna McDaniel is going to be gone. Laura Trump will probably be co-chair. And I'll tell you, there's going to be some grassroots movement. If they actually make the changes for the party on the lower, I mean, listen, the party has to make a change. But the main problem they need to have is that people in Congress need to have a backbone. That's the serious of all seriousness. Sorry, Mike Johnson. You lost my vote, bud. Your budget that you passed today basically gave everything that old crocodile tears wanted, and the House and the Democrats wanted. You gave it to them. Speaking of that, you know what makes me more happier though, Chris? Makes me real excited is that Mr. Magoo, Mitch McConnell, is not going to be minority leader past November. It's going to be a fantastic. Mr. Magoo is out as leader of the Senate. It is fantastic. He's still going to be there. Still going to be excited. But, Mr. Magoo, a.k.a. Mitch McConnell, is not going to be the minority leader. Unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with another pushover, better known as, hopefully not John Cornyn. I mean, he's another slouch. But seriously, I who I'll take? I'll take a Mike Lee, or Ted Cruz. I just, what do I know though? Ted Cruz is going to win for another re-election though. It's going to be fantastic to watch. There's no national issue that Ted Cruz isn't destroying this guy on. It's going to be great. But Chris, hopefully your guy for governor, fantastically just beats the crap out of that candidate in office and just wins bigly, But back to this episode. I hope everyone enjoys it. Has a good one. It's a good week to be a conservative. It's a good week to be it's a good week to be an American, dude.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful week. Make sure you enjoy this fantastic weather outside if you do have fantastic weather. People on the West Coast, I'm sorry you got snow again. Global warming my ass. It's cold as shit out there. But I'll just enjoy my Texas sun for a little while. But Chris, anything fun going on this weekend? You got anything good going on?
Nope. Just carry on. Enjoy the.
Thank you for listening to the Yankee Cowboy Podcast. Feel free to follow us on social media via Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.